sorry, it's also on Game Pass. However, apparently the Game Pass version's like 3 to 6 months out of date compared to the PC version. Like it's had a lot, like it's only got 4-player co-op and stuff, and apparently a lot of stuff is missing that have been added by patches in the Steam version. So you should be aware of
Well,
that. Where if you decide whether you want to play it on Game Pass or Steam.
I mean, I'm sure that'll be updated eventually.
Game begin.
The Mystery Gaming Bros are awesome! The Mystery Gaming Bros know how to party!
Hey, Mystery Pony Fiction here. Welcome to Mystery Gaming Bros, where bronies talk about video games. I'm joined today by con men who went to conventions, and I'd like to hear about their experience being con men. So, we'll go into your experience at conventions towards the end of the podcast, but we'll start with the gaming stuff in case people want to get through that first, and then they decide if they want to hear about our, brony and I guess furry conventions that we've been to. So I'm going to start with what I might be starting with for a while, and that's the Baldur's Gate 3 update. Have you guys played it any more since we last talked about it?
I have not been able to, unfortunately.
Yeah, I haven't. I was focusing on writing this whole past weekend. I actually just started playing a different game today, which we'll talk about later.
All right, real quick. I know we wanted to talk about Baldur's Gate, but we have to talk about Power World, real quick, because from what little I saw, it seems fucking dope. I'm just going to be straight with it. I like it so far.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of stuff. Apparently, it's broken the record for most simultaneous players at one time.
It has broken several records.
Yeah, it's quite a surprise. Like I wasn't planning on having any interest in it, but when I saw all the hype, I decided, yeah, okay, I got to buy this game.
Oh no, dude! I was 100% here for this from the moment I saw the very first trailer like a year ago, and I'm just like, I want this. When's it coming out? Why is it not coming out now?
Yeah, I was skeptical. Pokemon with guns thing. It looked a bit wild, but apparently it's at least 100 times better than the crap that the Pokemon last put out, the Scarlet and Violet.
All right, listen, to be fair, look to say good things about Power World doesn't require to take away anything from the Pokemon games. Like the Pokemon games are their own thing, and I don't even see Power World necessarily as being a competitor to it because they're not even playing the same sport. Now that I've played it long enough, it's not just Pokemon with guns. I realize that's the quick and dirty way of selling it to people to explain what it is. And yes, it is Pokemon, and yeah, it has guns, but there's so much more than that makes it its own game.
Yeah. I only got to play it for about 40 minutes before I had to go to bed in order to be well rested for today's show. I was tempted to keep playing it because, I was already getting quite into it in the first 30, 40 minutes. And, you can do crazy stuff with the character customization there. Anyway, I noticed, I would say that I compare it a lot to Ark, Ark Survival Evolved with the way the leveling up works, and the collecting resources to make stuff.
That's one of the comparisons I've heard. Another one for me personally, I find it's very similar. The early game, anyway, is very similar to Valheim, which is another Smash surprise success. That it's focusing on having enough to eat, having shelter, getting through the night. Those sort of survival elements are the bigger focus earlier on the game. But once you have those things situated, then it becomes more about exploration, and the game really shines with that too.
Just looking at it on my screen right now, it kind of reminds me of an early, I guess a more updated version of almost, I think it would be Rust. That's kind of
That's such a weird comparison to make. I get that. The first 2 or 3 hours, it's gonna feel like that. Again, where you're collecting resources, you're building a shelter, the survival elements of all that.
I feel like that's more so where my experience comes in because remember, I haven't played the game yet. It hasn't been something that I have a lot more experience with than just the little bit I've seen you guys play. But then,
Yeah.
just looking at it now, that's kind of what it reminds me. This guy's gonna get fucked up. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. It's just like I don't know. That's what's hitting to me. It's hitting Rust kind of feelings, like Rust vibe. I haven't played Val. Was it Valheim? Was that the one you were talking about earlier?
Yeah,
As
the Viking survival crafting game.
Right, right. I've also haven't played. What's the term? Ark Evolved. I heard good
Oh
things
my
about
god!
both
So
of them.
check out this character. I'm watching your stream here. This character with like the ginormous hips. The character creation. First of all, I want to mention this is kind of advice for anyone who hasn't already bought the game. All 2 people left in the world who don't already own it now.
I'm one of them.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just saying, like, it sold 1 million copies in the first 8 hours, which is its own record. It sold over 2 million copies in the first 24 hours, and it sold over 4 million copies in the first 40 hours, which there are 3 independent records that it smashed. The character creation is it's not a lot to it, but man, what there is it has a ton of range. So, like, yeah, you've got like 8 presets to pick from, but you can make them morbidly obese if you choose to, or you can have them look anorexic and everything in between. So it's not like the standard, the Kingdom Hearts like anime type characters where they're kind of boxy shaped.
You know what, Shakes? You know what? That's woke of them to be inclusive and stuff. How dare they?
What I really want to know. What I really want to know is, all right, does being like a major fat ass take away from your stamina? Because I feel like it should, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a big guy run more than like 100 yards?
But maybe there's gaps that you can't fit in if you're too big.
I'm not gonna lie, that would be pretty funny if it was that like realistic, I guess you could say.
Well, I don't know. It might come out that the meta is being a twiggy character because you have a smaller hitbox, but I suspect the actual hitbox doesn't change, and it's just all
That's what I can imagine.
But I mean, like, if you were, I like to use the term American sized. If you're an American sized person, and I'll own that one as an American because I go to Walmart, I see it all the freaking time. So, but like, if you're an American sized person and you want to have an accurate character model, and you want to have an accurate character model, you can do that. Yeah, you've got this person here with the Pixar hips, but they've also got this massive like caveman beard. And you could do that. You could. The game I was playing today, one of the people who was playing had a very androgynous character. You could have like a female feature with the face and the long hair, but then also have like a masculine chest with muscles, and then also have these great big thunder thigh, thickness hips. And you could have all that. Like, that's just with the character creation. They didn't have to do any of that. They could have just had it like Rust, where everyone was the same small range of character models.
Yeah. No, I'd really do enjoy the creatability of it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, that's really all that matters. But the gameplay. The character models shouldn't be the focus, but they actually put that effort in, because if you're going to have a third person game like this, where you're going to be walking behind the character that you made, you want to have them look pretty decent. It will at least look the way you want them to. I suppose is the question. Yes. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Right. And all that.
So how far did you get into it? Like what level did you?
I remember seeing you guys make a shield. That's about time that I checked out.
We got up to, my character was level 11, I believe, and I think it's level 11 out of 50. Obviously, it's a logarithmic increase, so it's going to become progressively more difficult to level up. What was I about to say? Oh, so the thing with this game, though, is kind of like Rust, in that once you have your character, you can't change it. So, it's funny to make these meme characters like this, but if you really want to be staring at that for 300 hours, be prepared for that, because you can't change. They might change it. Remember, this game is in early access. I want to mention that now.
You can start a new game though. I guess you can't change.
But I mean, you're gonna be losing you're gonna lose all your progress.
Yeah, and that's fine with that, because here's the thing. Today I was playing on someone else's game. They were hosting a multiplayer game. Now, there's a few ways you can do this. You can either use a public server and play with a bunch of other people, or you can do a private hosting where you play and you host the game, and you can have up to 4 players, including yourself. Alternatively, if you could manage it, you could host your own private server and have up to 32 players in the same world. So I was playing today entirely on someone else's games, which means that when I go to play my own single player game, I have to make a new character and start all over again. But I'll have the knowledge that and experience of playing as what I've already have. And so I think one of the biggest tips I could recommend to people when they first start this game is finding the fast travel locations, because the exploration is really huge. Like once you've got some kind of basic base setup where you've got clothes, you're not freezing through the night, you're not starving.
You can freeze at night? That's awesome.
Yeah, well, no, it gets cold at night, and so you will have a cold debuff, which affects your stamina. So like it becomes harder to. Oh, that was weird. So it becomes,
saw that, right? That was a little like ooh.
So like when you run, it consumes more stamina. Everything you do action wise consumes stamina. So like if you run, if you jump, if you climb, the game is very similar to Breath of the Wild in that way. Like if you see a wall, if you see a cliff, you can climb straight up the side of it, but you have limited stamina. Now, as you progress, as you increase your levels, you can gain points for those characteristics. So you can get more stamina, you can get more health points, you can deal more damage or have more defense, depending on the kind of clothing that you craft. At one point, fairly early on in the game, you can craft what amounts to a Halo overshield. It's not much, but it'll be able to tank those first couple of hits, so you're not constantly having to worry about healing all the time. There's a hunger meter, which you have to be mindful of. But again, you'll be tripping over berries and whatnot. So like if you starve, that's a pretty dumb way to die, because
there's also there's an entire pal that grows berries on his back, isn't there?
Yeah, that comes a little bit later, but like that's like in the mid game. Well, the early mid game, I would say. Okay. But yeah, and then you're gonna come across there are monsters that are gonna roam around that will be tens of levels higher than you'll be capable of handling. And those just kind of create like this, like, hey, here's something, here's a goal for you to try to work yourself up to being able to do. Kind of like how they had the alphas in Legends of Arceus.
I remember those.
Yeah.
That's a Pokemon, isn't it?
But the great thing about that is that it would be this battle that you'd have to work really hard to do. And if you could succeed, it was a major boon for you to be able to go to the next region. And so there was plenty of times when I would be like, okay, I gotta, this isn't just to do some damage and throw a ball to catch something. Simple little exchange. This is like I need to make sure that my team is ready. I'm going to go through several of my pals, and also I got to make sure that my weapons and stuff are ready for this fight. But if I can succeed, I'm going to capture this thing, and then I'm just going to trample the entire rest of this area with this one battle, with this one guy. And
see,
like, and then here's the thing too. I went into this game with a critical eye. Like I was hyped up, but I'm like, oh man, it's early access. What's going to be wrong with it? And honestly,
right.
One of the first things I always judge a game for will be its tutorial, and it actually has a pretty competent tutorial. The thing I would like better would be if there was like some kind of a like NPC companion to kind of guide you through it and like say it out loud. But like obviously recording that kind of voice work takes up a lot of extra space, a lot of extra budget.
Yeah, I don't think there is any voice work, is there? Is there any?
It's very similar to Breath of the Wild, where you've got like your characters, you've got like 6 voices to choose from, but it's mostly just hoo ha ha, climbing up walls and crap.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like if you look in the top corner there, if you look in the top corner of the screen, that it shows like what the tutorial looks like, and it gives you this little checklist, and it tells you how to do it. It's like open the menu, hit tab, go to the survival guide, and once you open that up, then it'll tell you, all right, now do this, and it's got pretty decent step-by-step guidance. I kind of had the advantage of playing with someone who had already put in a few hours. And really, a few hours is more than enough to really learn how to play the game. And after that, it just comes down to exploration experience of knowing where certain things are, or certain tricks to being able to defeat this enemy, or what pals are good for your base. And the base the base. Excuse me. The base elements is really what sets this game apart from, just being Pokemon with guns. Is that you're going to have a base where you're going to have an orchard, and that orchard's going to have seeds planted, trees harvested, and watered. And there are pals for all of those things. So you can get a water type that'll water your plants. You can get a fire type that will fuel your furnace. So rather than like having to search for coal all the time, you would just have this thing parked in front of your furnace, blowing fire into it where your iron ore is, and then you're going to have the ingots come out. So you're going to be looking around for certain pals. I keep saying Pokemon, but you're going to be looking around for certain pals because they're going to have a very specific function to your base. And you're going to be looking like, oh man, I need to. And the individual pals, in addition to whatever their species is, they all have individual traits. So some of them, like you could go out and you could get 10 of these firefoxes here. And like you'll have some that are lazy, some that are gluttons. They'll eat a lot of food because you got to feed them when they're working, And then you'll find one that's a workaholic, where it has a bonus to its work rate, and it doesn't have like as bad a food requirements. And so the meta at that point becomes like, oh, what's the best version of this species I can find? And it's all that is randomized.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of Conan Exiles, where you go out and you enslave people to do the work for you.
Right, but it's more palatable because they're pals, not slaves.
Apparently.
Wait.
It gets a bit dark, doesn't it? Like
of course it gets really dark. This game, all right, I'll tell you right now, this game does not F around. All right. There's a boss fight. I'm getting to it. So there's a boss fight included in the tutorial, and let me tell you, this is not a tutorial boss fight. This boss fight in the tutorial exists to tutorialize you on the fact that this game is going to consistently and repeatedly kick your ass. You are gonna die a lot in this game, but when you die in this game, you will drop everything. You drop everything.
Yeah, I think I chose hard mode as well. Were you guys on hard mode?
I don't know how he had it set. I think it was probably just had it on the default setting. But like when you die, you drop everything in a bag, and then you have to go back. You respawn back into the world with nothing again, and you can do a corpse run to go back to your stuff to recover it, and hopefully whatever's in that area isn't aggressive. But oftentimes it is, so you have to like swoop in, grab it, and then just run the heck away. Because if you never recover it, I mean, like you lose all of the pals that you had with you and whatnot.
Oh, interesting! I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so.
Or you can play on easy mode, and in easy mode, I don't think you lose stuff when you die. So they've got that option for you. For the kids.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the game has a ton of customization to it. So, and again, it's in early access, so like these are things that could change, and so they've already been very responsive with the community as far as like their roadmap and in terms of. When people were playing the beta and they were giving their feedback, and they made a lot of changes based on that, which is always good. It's something you want to see from an early access game, and it's good to see that the excitement around this game was well rewarded, because I was really worried that this was going to just be a meme game, but or it was just going to be Pokemon with guns, and it isn't. It's a lot of other things that distinguish it and make it its own game with its own identity.
Yeah,
and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I wasn't I was gonna do this show yesterday. And if I did do the show yesterday, this game probably wouldn't have come up at all, because I don't think any of us had played it yet. Like that's how quickly it just dropped and became popular. And I
was hovering on the spot. I was hovering on the store page for it to drop, and for me it was 2 a.m. And then I had to go to work that day. So as soon as it dropped, I started to download. Then I went back to bed, and then I got up, turned my computer off, and went to work. And then when I came home, I wanted to play it. I wanted to play it for the last 50 hours. and I couldn't because I had other obligations to tend to first, and this was going to be my reward for getting it all done. And then I got a chance to play it, and I'm very glad that I did. And I highly recommend it. This is going to be my game for quite a long time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to like I got this game now. Like I could have waited, but I kind of wanted to get it now while everyone's playing it, and I could play it with them because there's a video game Discord that I'm active on, and they're all playing it together and talking about it. So I think this is an opportunity for me to get more socially involved with other people in a game. You know, I've kind of haven't been doing that much, just been playing single player games. And I think this is an opportunity for me to properly get, into a game with people.
Just to touch up earlier on what you guys were playing, doesn't this seem familiar? Doesn't this seem familiar, Shakes? This thing that molested you guys earlier? It was like one of the first major few levels above you guys that you guys were fighting.
Oh, the bird.
Yeah, the bird.
The Nightwing.
The bird.
Yeah, so we went after that. We saw one. It was one of the first ones that. All right, so one of the first ones you're gonna see as a level 1 character is you're gonna see this gigantic mammoth that's like a level 34. It's a peaceful a mob, but if you aggro it, it'll basically one shot you, and that exists to tell you, hey, there exist these creatures that you're not gonna be able to catch at your level, and if you mess with it, it's gonna kill you. That's why that exists.
Yeah, I like that.
But then there was these other ones. We found a Nightwing that was like a level 10. And so when we got to be like level 6, level 7, we're like, okay, since we have multiple players here and we've got a team of pals and we've got some decent ranged weapons, I think if we work together, we could take it out. Not necessarily not take it out, but like capture it. And it took some doing, and the first time we fought it, we got killed, and then we all had to go back and get our stuff. But fortunately, if it's originally passive, which the Nightwing is, it's initially passive. When we went back, everything in the area was passive, so we were able to recover our things and then go back and craft some new items and get our team leveled up. And we were able to try again, and we understood, and we learned that, like, for example, we learned its attack patterns. We learned that you can dodge, which is nice to know. So, like, when it's sending something at you, you can duck, roll out of the way, and hopefully you don't. It's not one of these things where it's a spread attack where you go into a different projectile.
Were you playing it on a keyboard or controller?
I was playing on a keyboard.
Okay.
Only way to do it.
Do you think that's the only way to do it? Do you think people using controller have like a disadvantage, or it's more difficult?
So if you now, I was gonna say, now for me, I prefer the keyboard because I prefer the mouse aiming, which is once I started using a bow and arrow, that was big. But the game has a lot of melee parts to it too, so you can use like a club or a bat or a spear, and since you're using a third-person character view, having the thumbstick for your camera to dual stick. Like when I play Assassin's Creed, where it's mostly a melee game, aside from when he's got like the wrist gun. I mean, the last one I really played was Brotherhood, so that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I played it with controller, and I'm just wondering.
Yeah, exactly. I played that one with the controller, and this one here, it's definitely made to be able to be played with the controller. I can't rightly say which would be better. I think it comes down to personal preference. It's designed pretty well for both. They just had the map pulled up there. I want to say right now, first of all, this is not a procedurally generated map. It's a crafted map, so everyone's gonna have the same map. It's not like Valheim where it's procedurally generated. Also, the map is just like ridiculously big. Like I wish they would just zoom out, because when you start out in this area that they're looking at right now, like that is way zoomed in. That's way zoomed in what you're looking at right now on the screen. Like you can zoom way out, and that's gonna be way down in the southeast corner. And there's just like the whole rest of the world that's all dark.
Cool.
I like that. I like that because it's more for exploration.
Yeah, apparently they did that with Elden Ring. Like, you start off in an area and you think, okay, that's the whole map, but then it apparently like zooms out and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah,
No, Elden Ring
and
is pretty good.
this game is exactly like that. So when you look off into the foggy distance, you might think that, oh, it's the abyss. If I jump down there, I'm gonna die. Um, we were like, as we were playing, like the fall damage isn't terrible, but you get to unlock the glider pretty early on, the parachute, which gives you a lot of like lateral movement,
Gives me
just like in Breath
Breath
of
of
the
the
Wild.
Wild vibes.
Exactly, that's exactly what it is. Like it took the best thing, it took the best parts of a lot of games and combined them all together. You know, it's like it's the best parts of Valheim. It's the best parts of Pokemon. It's the best parts of Breath of the Wild, and it combines them all together, and it works in a really great cohesive way. And like getting the pals like this right here to help out with cooking, for example, it just improves the speed at which you complete these tasks. And after a certain point, when you get enough of them working with a synergy, you can have one thing that's like planting seeds, one thing that's harvesting, one thing that's watering, and all of a sudden now they're making their own food. So that's one less thing you have to worry about. You know, the more you automate, the more you can spend time going out and exploring without having to worry about them, getting hungry.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to playing it more. And yeah, I'm probably getting into multiplayer games.
And
I wish I
really,
had a
like,
bit more time to play, but I mean,
for,
honest to God, this is probably going to be one of the next games I pick up because this seems like a
this
lot of fun.
is,
I really
and there's
so
really
far.
no reason to not get it. I mean, they have a launch sale going on right now, as of this posting, and at $30. I mean,
Oh, that's
this
totally
is
worth it.
this is easily a $50, if not a $60 game, but it's $30 in early access, and now is the time to get in on it because, like, I know they're going to be adding more stuff to it. They've been very vocal about that.
And that's not even to leave it to the modding community as well, because once the modders get a hold of it, like
Oh yeah,
any little thing that maybe they aren't going to address immediately because it's just not in the front burner.
I
Just
bet
because there's other things precedent.
I bet the modders
There's
are going
gonna
to add
be
ponies to it,
improvements.
and that'll be fun.
I was waiting to try to find the Ponita analog because there's a lot of obvious comparison. What is that?
That
It's
looks
cute
cute.
is what it is. I want it.
Like, no, they're not. I've never seen one that large in the game before, so it must be like the alpha version, which is amazing.
Yeah.
All right, but anyways,
If you're listening to this, there is a video version on my YouTube channel. In case you're wondering what we're talking about when we talk about what we're seeing. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So at the $30 buy-in, like that's an incredible. That's not a barrier, because so for some people, a lot of people like now that the new standard is going to be like, oh, $60 for a new video game. That's a barrier for a lot of people, but this is only $30. And honestly,
also it's on
I would have just
Game.
been excited.
Sorry, it's also on Game Pass. However, apparently the Game Pass version's like 3 to 6 months out of date compared to the PC version. Like it's had a lot. Like it's only got 4-player co-op and stuff, and apparently a lot of stuff is missing that have been added by patches in the Steam version. So you should be aware of that. If you decide whether you want to play it on Game Pass or Steam.
I mean, I'm sure that'll be updated eventually. But yeah, it's I've never been so emphatic about selling a game for people to buy, because honestly, I've been waiting for like a regular mainstream Pokemon game to be available on PC. But Nintendo just never wanted to make that jump. I know they've got their reasons, and I don't want to get into that right now. It's all economic and political business, but in terms of like business politics. But I'm just glad that a game like this, even part of this, would exist on PC, but like it's all of this, and it's just so good.
I feel like Nintendo's probably a bit embarrassed about, how much this is kicking ass.
Well, no. The funny thing is, like when people talk about like the console wars, when they talk about PlayStation versus Xbox versus Nintendo, like it's really just PlayStation versus Xbox, and because Nintendo doesn't even see either of them as a competitor at all. Nintendo is like the Apple of video games, where like they've got their core fan base. They're always going to have that core fan base. They can just keep on releasing the same stuff every year, and people will just keep buying it. It's like, oh, it's the new Pokemon, or it's the new Smash Brothers with
Oh man,
this
that
extra
totally looked
character
like
from-
Electabuzz. Very
Yeah, and that's
inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the funny thing too. I love the drama, the internet drama surrounding this game, was because you'll have some people who will just be like, "Oh, this is very obviously a Pokemon ripoff because such and such looks just like that," right? And they're trying to like put down this game based on that. And it's like, what are you doing? Are you coming to the rescue of the multi-billion-dollar company?
Yeah. Nintendo doesn't need your defense. They've got really good lawyers as it is.
I'm not, because like here's the thing, I'm not worried about Power World getting sued, because if they were going to issue a cease and desist, they would have done it like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
How old is Pal? How old is it in terms of? Because I remember you mentioned earlier it was on Game Pass, but that's a few months out of date. So how old is the original Power World?
Well, I mean, I saw the trailer for this almost a year ago, and so it's obviously been in development for quite some time. So I don't know, but like the point is, like, they were even the trailer was like, oh, I recognize that PAL. That's a PAL version of Eevee, or that's a such and such version of this Pokemon, or that. Like it was very on the nose with some of it, and I'm like, well, Nintendo's going to sue them, but if they were going to, they would have already. So that argument just doesn't have any water anymore.
All right. Now I just we've been talking about this for 30 minutes now, so I think maybe we should move on to something else for a bit, so we don't run out of time in the show.
All right.
Yeah, you feel like you've gotten out most of what you want to say, Shakes?
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll have more for next episode.
Yeah. Okay. The next couple of topics are for you, Shakes. We had a look at these games, but couldn't say much about them because you weren't here. So we'll start with JackBox. Me and Cash talked about it a bit, but we would like your input.
Sure.
Yeah. So
I like
it. Yeah. Well, obviously JackBox is more than one game; it's a whole bunch of them.
Yep.
Do you have any highlights? Of games that we played together in the JackBox? I think one that I really enjoyed was that the texting one where you mess up a text message and it turns out really hilarious.
Fixie Text.
Yeah,
that's in the most recent JackBox pack, JackBox 9, I think. It's got Fixie Text.
Yeah, and I also really enjoyed that one where I don't know, it was another text where you like drag the text and you make like funny the job interview one.
Job.
Yeah, job. Yeah, I hadn't played that before. Played it for the first time recently. I think that's one of my favorite JackBox.
Which JackBox has the game mode where you're able to it's like you and up to 16 players or 8 players, something along those lines?
Bracketeering?
Yes, bracketeering. That's the one I was thinking about. That one's probably, I haven't played the newest JackBox games yet, but bracketeering is probably one of my more favorite ones. That one's pretty fun.
That's good to know. I kind of feel a bit disappointed when we get bracketeering. I think a lot of the more fun games are unfortunately only up to 8 players, but yeah, we can always go to bracketeering when the room gets filled up with more than 8. But yeah, I mean, it's fun, but it does kind of suck that the first round is kind of a boring round, and it doesn't really. It's not until the third round that it gets particularly exciting and funny.
Yeah, if JackBox Games was listening right now, my one suggestion would be like make a new version of bracketeering where it's just the triple blind all the time.
Yeah,
because that's when the game starts, and that's the end of the game, unfortunately. But just my take on the JackBox games overall is that they're just great party games, and the way that they're designed is great, where only one person needs to own the game, then they host it and stream it, and then you can have all these people just joining through the website and being able to play for free. That's the big appeal, because the motto is, if it's free, if it's for me.
Yeah.
So when we have a party night and it's like, all right, let's play Jackbox. One person hosts it, and all of a sudden you can have as many people as you want being able to participate. Now, I mean, some games only allow for 6 players or 8 players. Some of them can host more than that, but after that, you've got the audience participation, which I've seen completely sway games one way or the other. Where if the audience had voted a different way, then someone else would have won. But it gets everyone to be involved, and if you're all sitting in a Discord call like this, it becomes like an interactive screensaver at that point. It's meant to be it gives you something to do while you're socializing. And it's really darn entertainment. Like I've had some times where I've laughed so hard I've almost like choked on whatever it is I was drinking.
Yep. Yeah, I've seen you get pretty entertaining when you've been drinking.
What's it called?
And at the core of it, that's what it's for. It's just
right. I mean, I really do enjoy it. I remember buying. I think at some point there was 1 or 2 people that couldn't host it that usually do. I just screw it. I'll get the games and I'll host and I'll do whatever it was. And that was one of the things I really enjoy. I think it was JackBox 3 or 2, one of those 2. And it's just they got a whole different bunch of games in there, and nobody else has to own it. It's something that I feel like it's fun to introduce to new friends or introduce to friends that haven't played it before, because it's just one of those games that, hey, it's free.
Yeah.
I only need your time. I don't need you to buy a whole game for it. And I feel like that's one of the things that really does help sell the game itself, in a sense, is that one person in a party of like 8 can just have it.
And from a business standpoint, like the Jackbox games are not like production intensive. It doesn't take a lot to make a Jackbox game. They're very creative, and you can tell a lot of creativity goes into it. But in terms of like graphics and programming, they're very simple, so it's easy to make them. So they don't have to make a ton of money, to be able to pay for these things to be able to be made. And that's why they've been able to produce like 9 packs of these games. And each one comes with like 4 or 5 games in the pack. And because like you only need one person to buy it to be able to have enough fun for 9 people. And yeah, it's a profit. It's still a profitable business model, even though they do it that way, because it's not a AAA game.
Yep. Another one of my favorites is probably Trivia Murder Party. Although
like
I tend to suck at answering the question.
Well, I was going to say trivia games are right at the heart of Jackbox, because like it started out with You Don't Know Jack, which was its own game. And then that went on to become, Jackbox, and they created these party packs, starting with like things like Quiplash.
Yeah.
But also, other trivia games like The Wheel of Enormous Proportions.
Yeah, I remember playing You Don't Know Jack way back when I was a teenager, like 15 years ago or so.
Yeah.
It's been around for a long time.
Plan on a Friday night, because I don't think I've ever played You Don't Know Jack.
Yeah, I think it's been overshadowed.
Yeah, we don't play it that often.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a trivia game, but I feel like they've done other better trivia games just within the Jackbox party packs themselves.
Yeah,
fair enough.
And then you've also got the robot rap battle game, which I know you very much enjoy, Shakes, since you're a prolific writer, and you kick our butts on it all the time.
Well, sorry. So, gosh, I'm trying to remember what the name of that one is called. It's like, robot epic rap battle. Oh, I'm tripping up on it. Anyways, the problem is that there's some games that are my favorite games, but they're really hard to play with other people who don't really know the game well. Like Joke Boat, for example, is a really great game, but people need to know how to play it, and some people just can't play it well, and it's a talent that is required. And so we don't get a ton of mileage out of those, because sometimes there's some people who just don't like doing drawing games. Like I have to use a mouse to draw.
Yeah.
So
I like the drawing games, and I wish we played them more. But
I love the drawing games. I have to do it on a mouse, and it always looks like I drew it with a mouse rather than a tablet.
Yeah.
Oh man, I still remember that one time I tried to draw Raven, and I tried to do Teen Titans Raven instead of the fucking bird, and it came out like total shit. It came out like total shit, man. It really did. I'm not a good artist. Let's put it that way.
All right. Well, we're on 9 minutes on that topic. Should we move on?
This reminds me of. I was gonna say it reminds me of what the dub, the one that who was it that made it with the ponies?
Yeah. Well, that's what we're going on to next. Yeah, that's the next topic is what the dub with ponies. We talked about that last show, but we'd like Shake's input on it.
Basically, just taking clips from the show and using that, right?
Yeah. So it actually takes a fair bit of work. And
yeah, because you've actually been helping to make the clips that we use.
Yeah, so what we've done is we've gone back and we've watched the old episodes and we've tried to find a clip that would work, and then you have to he has to clip it, and then he has to chop it up in a certain way so that it works for what the dub. But all that takes time. But we could generally, if we really focus, we could do like a season a day. But that's still you're talking about like 20 something episodes. Just to make these little 10-second clips, but it takes a whole day to do it. But it's really fantastic. I mean, the original What the Dub clips are all made from public domain videos. So they kind of have to. There's no way they'd be able to pay for all the licensing. And so, but the modding allows you to be able to put in your own custom clips and create these clip packs that you can install and then use. So if and when he goes to upload them, then anyone would be able to use them.
Would the modding community ever likely have a problem with copyright lawyers coming after them?
No, I mean, if the copyright lawyers really, well, all right. So here's a very watered down version of it, because I have studied law a bit, but the watered down version is that yes, they could absolutely go after any of these things for copyright, but you got to remember these corporations have to pay these.
Cash, could you bring up some footage of What the Dub? I assume just a public access version that we hopefully won't get copyright struck for.
Well, so let me get into that. So generally, what you'd get in trouble for in this case for your video would be like if you had the audio, but since this is all fair use stuff, that it wouldn't matter. If we were watching a video of like a movie or something like that where it's current and under someone's copyright protection, then you can get in trouble for having the audio being more than a few seconds long on YouTube. But that's a separate thing.
By the way, just quickly, last show, Cash showed some footage from G5. And Netflix seems to be really protective, and I wonder, if Netflix would go after people for making G5 clips on What the Dub.
Well, so all right, so here's the thing. So it really depends on what they want to pay their lawyers to pursue. Now, in the case of like, for example, Fighting is Magic, for example. The reason why they went after them so hard is because they were going to make this game using their intellectual property, but then make money from it. And ultimately, they did a cease and desist before they ever got to that point. But with something like this, when you're making mods for a game that already has been bought and paid for, you're not when you're buying the game, you're not paying for the copyrighted content. You're paying it for the free use content, and the mods are made for free. So like if someone was making a mod that used copyrighted clips and then we're only making it available by selling it, once you start making money using copyrighted material, that's when you really risk getting lawsuit.
Yeah.
So you can use things for it's a sort of like gray area, but you can use things as long as you are not making money off of it. Once you do that, then you really that really makes you a high profile copyright infringement.
So speaking of that,
something you also have to remember is that these corporations don't. You're good. You're good. One thing that you also have to remember though is that, like, for example, if you're not making money off something like this, if you're just simply using it, one of the things that they don't want to come off as is as a bully, in a sense, because we had that actually with McDonald's. There was two people protesting over in England, and they were protesting outside the McDonald's, and they actually took civil action against these people, and they won, and they were in the right in a sense. However, the backlash from that actually caused a small drop in their what's the term?
In revenue?
The stock price.
Yeah, stock
Not
price.
not the revenue itself, but the stock price itself took a slight hit because it
McDonald's
made
did,
McDonald's
Yeah.
it made McDonald's look like a total bully. And that's something that they actually have to keep in mind is like, you know what, we can go after someone who's making money, but we don't want to go after like a small creator that's just using it and not planning on making money off this for that reason.
Hey,
Because
so
that ends up making them look
have you
bad.
guys ever heard of Pokemon Revolution Online? PRO?
No.
Okay. Well, it's a really surprising thing that because I played it like probably 4 years ago, and it's literally like a copy of the first several generations of Pokemon, but it's made into an MMO, so you can walk around and you can meet other players and see other players walking around the world. And they literally rip off exactly the Pokemon, like they're unapologetic about it. And yeah, basically they've just turned Pokemon into an MMO and actually used the actual level design from the actual game. And I don't get why they've never been cease and desisted, and apparently they're still running today. Particularly because there's actually microtransactions in it. Like I'd be that's where I kind of felt bad about it because I'm all for them ripping off Pokemon as much as they want. I don't really care about that. But what I did find dodgy was that they were making money from it. With microtransactions.
The way that they can get away with that, and again, this is a legally gray area, so I don't recommend this as a business practice, but it's kind of like if someone wanted to sell their virginity on eBay, this has happened, you
I
can't
was going to say
have
that has happened
you
too.
you can't have sex for money. That's illegal. That's that. So what that person will do is that they will put up a ticket, and the people bid on the ticket, and then they win this ticket for the bid for however much they're doing. And then that person can later on exchange that ticket, which is not cash, for a sexual favor. And that is legally okay. And so the way that they get away with the game doing this is that the game itself, even if it uses copyrighted material, if the game itself isn't making money, you can have microtransactions in it as long as the microtransactions do not give you access to copyrighted material. And again, it's just this really weird workaround of being able to do that.
Right.
But copyright law is just it's the best and the worst because it really forces companies to be legally aggressive with pursuing copyright protection, but it also has situations like this that are very obviously a violation of the spirit of copyright protection, but copyright law doesn't cover it. And my general take on the whole thing is that copyright law needs a lot of revision for everyone's sake.
It's like really outdated.
It's outdated.
And Disney has been fighting to like it used to only be like a 15 years that you own your IP, but Disney went and made it like 95 years or whatever.
Well, they did that over the course. They did that over the course of several lobbying battles that they've done over the course of the last many decades.
Yeah.
Basically, to just keep extending Mickey Mouse's or Steamboat Willie's copyright protection, which that has passed, and
they still have Mickey though.
Yeah, a different version of Mickey, and they're just going to keep on doing it because it makes money, And so, like, unless you or I want to take out, millions of dollars to lobby in the other direction, then that's just how they're going to do that. It's not really a productive political discussion.
Yeah. All right. So, anything else you wanted to say about what the dub? Sorry, I went off on that tangent. It's just with Power World being mentioned and that, it brought up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but by the way, I highly recommend that you play that PRO because it's like the best Pokemon game ever made since it wasn't made by the actual Pokemon company. It's just that I'm very surprised that they haven't been shut down by cease and desists in so many years. So maybe you should play it while you still can because I find it surprising they've lasted this long. But it is it's like the best Pokemon game ever made. With more simple graphics, but the gameplay is all there. It's the same Pokemon that and it's better than the crap that the official Pokemon company keep putting out. Back to what the dub. If you have anything else you want to say about that.
Oh, that's really it.
Cool.
It's a fun game, and again, it's like JackBox, where only one person has to own it, and then up to 6 people can play, and audience of more than that.
Yeah. Okay. The next game on the list is the Gnorp Apologue. I haven't played this, and Cash hasn't played it, but I see that you've got quite a lot of time on it in your Steam profile. Shakes?
Mine the rock.
It's just one of those. It's a cookie clicker game with some flair to it. It's I think I spent like $4 on it because I saw someone else playing it on YouTube. But it's just a cute little incremental progression game where you have these guys who are mining the rock, and you just find more and more efficient ways to mine it and collect it and mine it harder. It's like Minecraft. You mine to craft, and then you craft to mine, and it runs idly. And
does it run when you're not paying attention to it? Like you can leave it in the background and go do something else.
Yeah, you can mute the audio from it because there is some music, there is some sound effects. You can mute it and then minimize it, and then go do something else, and then come back to it, and it'll have made a ton of progress.
Does it make any when it's turned off progress like some phone games do, where you can turn the game off and come back?
So yeah, like if you turn your computer off and then come back the next day, it doesn't run in the background like that. You do have to have it running. Okay. But I will say that when you have it minimized, it runs at 100% progress speed. So there's no you got 20% of this much time. It runs. It's nothing fancy, but it's just a fun little progressive game.
Cool.
So yeah, if you've got $4, four and change dollars, just burning a hole in your pocket, you could do a lot worse.
All right. And now what about Highland Song? That I see you've got some time on, Shakes.
All right, Highland Song is a very cute narrative game where you are playing a 2-dimensional platformer, where it's like if
are you playing it on the Switch, by the way, or another platform?
I was playing on PC.
Okay.
But I was using my Xbox controller, so it very much suggests that you use a controller. But the idea of it is that you're doing this 2D platformer. It's kind of like 2D Breath of the Wild, where you can do like rock climbing. There are very, very light survival elements. It's more of an interactive storytelling game where you're trying to traverse this level to run away from home and go run to the ocean to go see the ocean. Essentially, eventually you get to the lighthouse, and that's the end of the game. But the neat thing about it, and they didn't really showcase it here, is that there are parts in the game where you'll be running along this 2-dimensional section, and you'll see something in the background, and you can walk like a layer deeper into the background, and all of a sudden that part comes into focus, and the part in the foreground goes away. So like kind of like how that camera was panning through it, you can move like further and further into the background, because that's actually a progress. You're going back and forth across the screen, but you're heading deeper into the third dimension to get to the back of it. It's very pretty. It's got wonderful music, and it's all like got a little bit of Scottish lore and Scottish folk song mixed in with it. It's just a fun, cute little low stress game. The idea of it is that you're supposed to get to the lighthouse in less than, I think, 5 or 7 days. You can, but like as you go, you through your playthrough, you find locations, you can map things out, and you add like little notes to what you're doing. You collect items, and you can do multiple playthroughs. And when you start the next playthrough, all the things that you've collected, all the information you've collected, that persists. Because the first time I played it, I didn't make it anywhere close to 7 days. I think I was like up to like 11 days by the time I finally got there, because like the weather got bad, and I had to take shelter, and I lost a lot of time trying to explore. And what ended up being like a dead end. Like there was all these cool like little bits of treasure and lore that you find, but it didn't really progress me on my linear journey to get to wherever I was going. But like here's the thing: like you get this note here where you're trying to find this particular detail in the landscape, and then you'd be like, okay, I have to go there. And once you get to that point in the landscape, then you can proceed into the background. So like if you look here, like she's gonna go to, well, I don't know if she's gonna necessarily do it in this clip, but she finds it. It's like, oh, a path to the valley beyond. So then she'll just walk into the background.
Okay.
And it's a very beautiful, artsy, fun game.
Cool.
That's a very kind of artsy kind of game in that sense. You know, something where there's always little bits and pieces hidden throughout. That's the best way I could describe it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, I think this one was like another like little. I think it was like maybe $10, but I think it was probably less than that.
Cool.
So
I mean, you know, you're thinking about it. It's like one of those situations. Like, listen, you'll spend more than $10 just going to the movies for a 2-hour entertainment. You know, something like this. I'm certain it has enough replayability that you'll get more than a few hours of entertainment out of it.
Yeah.
This run through alone lasts you 2 hours. So it's like if you can do this once, already you're ahead.
Yeah, that the entertainment per hour quoted.
Yep. Okay. I wanted to talk about a game that I've been playing a lot lately. It's Mad Games Tycoon 2. Now, yeah, I've just been really addicted to this game over the last couple days. I've probably spent about 30 hours in it, and it's got this cool option where you can put on a mode where, yeah, I put it on marathon mode, which makes the game really slow in terms of time doesn't pass very fast in the game. And so yeah, basically what it is you're running a video game studio, and the game starts in 1976. You know, right when when gaming really first started, and you like build up a studio, and you put down offices, and you're basically going through video game history, and there's a lot of depth to it. So like when you're designing your games, you can choose their genre and their topic, and basically you research technologies, and as you research more technologies, you get more specialized room, like a graphics or sound room, and you also have a room for game testers, and there's like a lot of depth in it in terms of all the stuff that you need to keep track of. Like it's a pretty challenging game in terms of how complex it is. Yeah, like have you guys seen the pictures I've been showing on the server?
Which ones?
Like I put some pictures, some photos I took of like my game company that I made, and like I named.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I named my my console or my company Pony Hug Station, and
I saw that.
Yeah, I just recently got to 1984 in the game, and that's when I finally had enough money to launch my own console. And it took a lot of it took a lot of getting a lot of good games out before I could make my own console. And I'm looking forward to this next stage of the game where I'm actually a console seller. Whereas before, from 1976 to 1983, I was just making games and trying to get them on other consoles. And
yeah, well, that actually that teaches a good historical lesson about like the first collapse of Atari, because the market had become flooded with so many games, because the Atari was so easy to make games for. It was actually their initial downfall. I mean, they recovered from it, but like you had so many people who were just making garbage games for the platform that they had to have a tighter control over their hardware, which is kind of what led to Nintendo's business practice.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a really, like, I feel like it's an educational game as well about video game history, because you can have it actually emulate real historical situations in history. Like it actually had the market crash of 1983 happen in my game, and for that time, like I was, my revenue went down immensely. But then after that, I launched the Pony Hug Station, which I guess is kind of a stand-in for Nintendo when they, made their big comeback after the crash when they launched their NES. And yeah, so I've got this console with a whopping 2 megahertz processor and 8 kilobytes of RAM. It makes you really reflect on the games that we used to play and just how simple they were, and you know how a 2
nowadays,
megahertz processor was top of the range back in 1984.
and now, 64 gigabytes of RAM for like maybe $100.
Yeah,
And every CPU comes with at least like 4 gigabytes or 4 GPUs, I guess you could call, or not GPUs. My apologies.
yeah. So it's like really fun to progressively expand your company from being one person at a desk to, at the moment I've got like 2 offices that have got like 25 office desks in it each, and they're all filled with employees. And it's really starting to get to that point where the game's getting really hectic and complicated. And yeah, I'm still looking forward to getting back to it. I'm looking forward to entering the age of actually owning a console, and like you've got to keep track of your marketing. You have marketing rooms. I've got like 2 marketing rooms or 3 marketing rooms with 7 people in each of them, and it's like and you keep checking job applications, trying to find employees with better perks and stats in their desired skills. Like you've got programming, game testing, game designing, sound artist and graphics artist that you've all got to hire. And yeah, it's just been really fun in like a sort of simulation way. It's just a really good simulation of it. Because I remember back when I used to play like a silly little phone game, Game Dev Story or something, and it's just
Game
such
Dev
a.
Tycoon.
I think it was called Game Dev Story,
All
the
right.
first one I played, and that was
All
where
right.
you just had a fixed office, and it was more of a clicker game than much of a serious emulation. But yeah, this game's a really much more serious emulation, much better. Yeah, much more complexity to it. And like, at the beginning of the game, it's not too complex when you're just one person on a computer, but it really ramps up in terms of the amount that you've got to keep track of. And it starts to get really challenging. I actually
Sounds like it.
lost. It was a bit roguelike in the fact that I actually went bankrupt and lost on my first 3 games. And it's only this 4th game now that I've actually made it into the Nintendo era, and without going bankrupt. And the other thing is that once I've reached this age, I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally rich. I've got like $20 million and I'm going to be fine for the rest of the game. But then when I developed my console, it was like $15 million to develop it. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I was just building up to, maybe surviving as a console developer. I wasn't as rich as I thought I was in the, grand scheme of the game.
Yeah,
So
the decimal point just moves.
yeah. So yeah, oh man, I'm addicted to this game at the moment. I highly recommend it if you like these sort of simulations. And I've actually been watching in the background on YouTube documentaries about video game history while I play the game. So it's been pretty cool.
There you go.
Yeah. So did you guys want to say anything about it? About your impressions of it? I mean, I kind of wish I could show you my studio that's a lot more fleshed out than the one on this video.
No, I mean, unfortunately, like I haven't played it, so I don't really have anything useful to add.
Yep, fair enough. But yeah, I just wanted to get my game out there. And then the last game I think we'll talk about today is Cult of the Lamb. I'm just wondering if you've played that since the new update.
I sure have.
Yep. What do you think of that?
Well, after I have beaten Cult of the Lamb for quite some time. After they added the Relics of the Old Gods, there was more to do with the end game. And now with the Sins of the Flesh update, it almost made me want to do a new playthrough again.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it would take very little for me to do a whole brand new playthrough because every time I play through it, it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's one of those games where I really could just keep playing it over and over from beginning to end. Like knowing how it ends doesn't change your enjoyment of it. Like there's a nice little twist at the end of the very first time you play it, but it's hardly a spoiler at this point anymore. Like most people know what you can do at the end of the game, the choice that you're presented with.
Yeah, I wanna play it again because there's now been 2 updates since I last played it, so I feel like it'd be a good time to do a new playthrough and get to enjoy the content of two major content updates.
Now, my experience of it was that when the update dropped, I went in and I played it, and I already had an established cult that was making a lot of worship very quickly. So I was able to unlock all these new things pretty fast. And so to me, it felt like it was a lot of new stuff all at once, like all these new tech trees that got added. But if you play through the game for the very first time, when you unlock these things, it all happens like organically. You're gonna get one new building at a time, and the tutorial aspect of that, because I will always say a game lives and dies by its tutorial. The fact that it gates each new building behind this time that is required to generate the worship points. I keep forgetting what the hell it's called. But you have to generate that, and that takes time and it takes followers. So like you have to have already managed a lot of followers to generate this to get these buildings. So each time you get a new building, you have plenty of time to get familiar with it, to learn how to use it, to learn what works and what doesn't work before you get the next new thing. So I kind of had my work cut out for me to get a lot of new things very quickly to try to get them all working. But the idea of it is that you're trying to get the new currency, which is called sin, and so you have sin points to spend to upgrade your temple. But also, it gives you these cute little mini games to do with your cult. A lot of it has to do with the homesteading side of it, where you're doing your cult management versus it doesn't. This particular update, the Sins of the Flesh, doesn't add a ton to the dungeon crawling aspects of it. There is a little bit. It's not that it doesn't have anything, but like it gives you like a little dancing rhythm mini game. So it's kind of like Guitar Hero, where you got to like push the buttons in the right sequence to do a little dance. They have the mating tent where they can make an egg, which is kind of very Pokemon-esque. It's all like, oh, they go in the tent, and then like, oh, everything's implied. Then they come out and, hey, we found an egg.
Yeah.
And
Just quickly, they said that this is not the sex update, so that means the sex update must still be coming, right?
No, this is the sex update. They go in, they have sex.
Yeah, but have you seen that meme online?
Yeah. Well, when they said Sins of the Flesh, I mean, they have the nudist ritual that you can do where you can have your followers go around without any clothing on, and they just have like a little leaf in their on their crotch, like that.
Yeah.
And that's great, no, but it doesn't really. I mean, like it's the same thing as the bonfire ritual, where it just gives you like an increase to your faith for your cult. Alternatively, there is the seamstress where you can go and have clothing made, so that way you can do a little bit more customization for your individual characters, which is great. They've added more character skins too, so you have more character types, more clothing. There's just lots of ways to customize each individual character, which is good if you're playing it on Twitch and you have a lot of Twitch followers who want their character to look different from everyone else. Then this is another way of doing it, not just in the crazy number of combinations you can have for the character models and color combinations and variants, but also now with outfits. So it really does add a lot. And then I would say the Relics of the Old Faith added a lot more to the dungeon side, and this is more for the homesteading side with the cult management side. But together, it's a ton. It's a ton of new stuff, and I'm so glad that I got this game when it first came out. Like I was excited when this game first launched, and it was amazing then, and it's only gotten better since then. And they're still adding more stuff to it.
Yeah.
So
when I first played it, I was a little bit disappointed with the fact that I seem to have like maxed out the skill tree before I'd even got through all the dungeons. So
yeah.
I kind of stopped there. Like I felt like, oh, there's not any more progression to really look forward to. And yeah, sometimes I find the cult management, like going back home and keeping up with everything, a bit overwhelming. Like I feel like it doesn't give you enough time to, get back into town and do all the things that you got to do, and then get back into the dungeon. And
well, there's a few great things. All right, so they definitely were listening to that kind of feedback, and they've added quite a few things. So, for example, they have a cook with the cults, relics of the old gods. So now you can make a new station where you can assign someone to cook meals, and you can pick what meals are going to get cooked, and you can set up a queue of like 30 of them. So that way you don't have to worry about feeding them. They have a combination with the outhouse. Now you can have someone who goes around and collects from the outhouse and puts it into a large manure bin for fertilizer. So you can assign someone for dealing with that, as well as going around and cleaning up any messes that get found around the cult land. Also, there is the Undertaker role, where so now if someone dies at the cult, that person will have their body prepared and it gets stored in the morgue until you decide what to do with it, whether you're going to cannibalize it or if you're going to bury it or something else. You can also turn bodies into fertilizer. A lot of the big things that the Relics of the Old Faith update did was a lot of space management. So they have tents now that can have 3 people staying in it. You can have crypts which take up less of a footprint, and they can store more bodies in one single building rather than having to have an individual grave for everyone. A lot of things like that.
Cool. Yeah,
so
I definitely.
It solved the 2 updates, the Relics of the Old Faith and the Sins of the Flesh updates solved a lot of the tedium that was being complained about. So it's just really great developers that listen to the community.
Yeah, I look forward to getting back into it. The only problem is that I got it on Switch, and I don't know if they've improved the gameplay performance issues that sometimes had. Like in each room that you go in, it would freeze for like 2 seconds, making you think the game crashed, but then it would like catch up and go. I guess that's just a Switch performance thing.
I will say that it was definitely designed for PC first, and it was ported to the Switch, because I don't understand, like, any argument that's made against the hardware restrictions of the Switch don't make any damn sense to me, because Breath of the Wild exists.
Yeah.
And that is an enormous game with huge view distances, lots of detail.
Pretty impressive that they put Diablo 3 on Switch too. Like a pretty faithful Diablo 3.
Yeah, and you can have a lot of stuff on the screen. So really what it ends up coming down to is platform optimization for when they port it. And clearly that was not where their priorities were, because the game was already a massive hit on PC, so they didn't really have to bank on like console exclusivity, which is its own art, that's a whole other can of worms to talk about, because console exclusivity just makes no sense at all in the current year. It used to make sense, but now no. And so designing for one console is it better be an amazing deal that you're getting to have that kind of exclusion, but otherwise you're just hamstringing yourself. All right. That's all I gotta say about that.
All right. Well, I did want to spend a bit of time on what I intended to be the main topic, and that's conventions. I've been to one way back in 2018, but I'll go over mine last. I think, you Shakes have had the most convention experience out of any of us.
That is correct.
Yeah. So, did you want to tell us about the one that you recently went to, and maybe any general, fascinating stories about your time at conventions?
I would say that most of my interesting stories at conventions are a good deal behind me. When I went to Everfree Northwest in 2023, I wasn't really going there for the convention.
Sorry, Cash, did you want to bring up some footage of maybe the events that Shakes mentions?
When I went to Everfree 2023, like, I wasn't there for the convention side of it per se. Like, I used to be one of those people who'd go there for like the panels and to see the celebrities and get the autographs. But at this point, I've got everybody's autographs, and the panels that they have now like they don't tend to have the AAA stars usually. So I mean, they still do sometimes.
Do you consider
there's
yourself a bit of a AAA star? Like, you're one of the most popular writers on filmfiction.net.
All right, so I consider myself that, but the reality of the matter is that's not true. We're not talking. I'm not a voice actor for the show. I never participated in the show in any official capacity. I did inspire a character on the show, but
Oh, did you?
yeah,
Oh,
that's kind of a long story. And
okay.
that's not really gonna be. I don't. That doesn't have to be the focus of this episode unless you want it to be. Um, but now, like when I go to conventions nowadays, it's more of like a large scale meetup where I get to go and see old friends that I only ever get to see at conventions because they're from all over the world. And what with the bronies being a worldwide community, we can't just like go down the street and all hang out together. You got to have these big coordinated meetups that we just happen to call conventions.
Yeah, cool. Cash, are you there? Or have you gone off and done something? Yeah, I guess that's our answer. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to talk about?
I mean, like, all right, so so when I used to, in addition to it being like a big meetup, like the thing I like about conventions in most part nowadays would be like the hotel parties. So, at night, once the convention lets out for the day, then everyone's going back to their hotel rooms, and some people are hosting parties, so you go there and just have a lot to drink and have a fun time. Again, just seeing everyone that you haven't seen all year, and this is the one time you get to hang out together.
So the after parties are probably the best part, eh?
Oh yeah, for me they are. And again, your mileage will vary depending on who you ask. But yeah, the parties are great, and I can't really get into it too much because after all, what happens at Everfree stays at Everfree.
Yeah. Did you get to meet get the autographs of any famous celebrities involved with the show?
Oh, I have everyone's autograph. I have one poster that I painted that has everyone's autograph. I have Lauren Faust, I have Tabitha St. Germain, Tara Strong, all the major voice actors. I've got Daniel Ingram, and like the show directors and writers, Megan McCarthy, Ashley Ball, Kathy Westluck, and just no, I think I already mentioned Nicole Oliver, but and John Delancey. I mean, these are people that don't go to conventions anymore. These are people that like just don't do autographs anymore, and so I'm very fortunate to have that. I've actually have two posters that I painted that have one of them has everyone autograph, and the other one has fewer. I have the Derpy Comic Con in 2011 Comic Con Derpy that had all the signatures on them. So, but like that's the thing is too. Like after I had gotten a chance to interact with the celebrities as much as I have, beyond that, at a certain point, it becomes stalking, in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
and I've gone to enough of their panels where any questions I would have ever hoped to have asked them got asked, and I got my answers. And so beyond that, you're just spending time with these people just to do it for its own sake, which is, not really a healthy relationship to have. Like parasocial relationships being what they are.
Yeah.
But I will say, one of the highlights for Everfree Northwest this past year was getting to sing at karaoke night with Nicole Oliver, who made a surprise appearance. She was not even on the ballot. She was, but she was listed as a surprise guest. So when she was there, I'm just like, oh yes, we have to sing a duet. But I also sang a duet with Cashflow. We did Bohemian Rhapsody, and we just melted the faces off of everyone there. Great time. I'm really looking forward to doing it again.
Hey, have you had the misfortune of ever going to any of the bad conventions that were a total disaster, like Las Pegasus?
Now, luckily, I've never had a really bad convention experience. I've been in tough situations before in my life where it takes a lot to put me in a situation that I don't feel like I can manage. But every convention that I've gone to, I've had a great time. With really only one exception, but that was a very personal issue that I had to deal with after the fact. But that itself didn't ruin the convention.
It's like we got cash back.
Yeah.
Now,
sorry about that. I knocked out for a second.
So Shakes and I, we've been to pony conventions. Well, I've been to one. Cash, you're a bit more into the furry scene, am I right?
No.
No?
If I'm being completely honest, this was the first convention pertaining to that particular fandom that I had ever been to.
All right. I'm sorry for making that assumption.
No,
I've been
good.
to some furry meetups, but like I'm not necessarily furry myself, but I like those people. I think they're, they're cool people. But yeah, I don't identify as one myself.
I gotta say, those fuckers party hard. Like, Jesus Christ, dude, I went to because everyone already knows that one of the things you go to when you go to these conventions is the con room parties, right?
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
My God, my freaking God. Like, going to some of these parties, man, you just see all the crap going down. Like, I would see people pop out little pills, little things, and just,
Is it true that bronies tend to be much better behaved at cons than furries?
I will say this. To me, it did seem like it.
That's the reputation that's gone around.
What do you have? What do you think?
I've seen it both ways. It really comes down to individuals, and the problem is that you have a few bad apples that'll ruin it for everyone. And that's anything. That's any group of people. You get a large enough group of people, you're going to have bad, visible representatives of that sample size.
That's
like I remember there was a news story of a furry convention happening at a hotel where there was a bunch of refugees, and the kids were delighted by it. And of course, the people who were doing the furry cosplays, they were just making the kids happy, and the kids were having a great time. And obviously with furry conventions there is a sexual subtext to it, but like none of that was present when they were having these interactions with these refugees, because obviously you keep those things separated,
Right.
And I've seen, and with bronies, I've seen poor behavior on the part of individual bronies. And the thing since we're having this conversation, I know there's a lot of people who will say that bronies are just furries light, and I don't agree with that. Not that I'm being defensive. I mean, I realize that we're talking about two different parts of a Venn diagram. There is overlap, but one is not completely inside the other.
Yeah, and there's variations. I mean, there's furries that aren't interested in fursuiting, like that it gets the reputation that, all furries want a fursuit, but, there's a lot that aren't interested in that, and they're a lot more tame and mild in their, overt expression of it.
Yeah. It just comes back to where, making overgeneralizations usually doesn't, do something justice.
It's actually pretty funny that you mentioned that, because I did actually meet one of those types of furries when I was there, actually. So at some point during this, I decided to check out you guys ever see the speed dating button game or whatever it's called on YouTube?
No.
The button.
No.
Oh, okay, I think that's familiar.
So basically what it is you have you start talking to them for a minute, 2 minutes. After a certain amount of time, you can press a buzzer to knock them out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I decided to join one of these games, and it was I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty fun. And in that, I met this small group of people that we decided to spend, basically the rest of the evening together. It was I forgot who their names were, but there's a few people, like 2 dudes and a chick, and I ended up spending more time with the chick than anything. We ended up just spending the rest of the Saturday, I think it was, together, and that was kind of her deal. She really wasn't interested in the more, let's say, explorative aspects of that community. My God, do I have a story about that? But that's coming up. But for that, that's kind of what she was mentioning. She was like, yeah, a lot of people say that the sexual aspect really isn't a big major portion of it, but I have to disagree. These were her words. She's like, I feel like it's a major aspect of it. And I will say
Well,
this.
I guess it's going to be if you're going to cons of people that, are overly enthusiastic about it.
Well, I think what it comes down to is that you have to remember underneath that fursuit is a human being. So of course it's going to be sexual.
Well, not only that, but I mean, I personally feel like there was at least a good job of keeping it, after hours kind of thing. Like that's when more of it came out, more so than during the day, because during the day you had families there. You had, it was all ages kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that's like I'll usually be the first one to say let your freak flag fly, but do that where appropriately. Like there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
And there's a time and a place to not do that. And as long as you can compartmentalize those two aspects of it, for any fandom, that has a darker side to it, as long as you can compartmentalize that, just have some, decency in public.
Hey, Cash, did you want to show some footage of more brony related conventions?
I will, but do you remember this guy, Shakes, from or this chick from BabsCon?
No.
I didn't get to say hi, but this person was actually at BabsCon. I got to speak with them then. That was something that was pretty interesting to see them there. Let me go ahead and pull up BabsCon.
I remember a red card with the Cadence cosplay.
Zizzy? Was that who you're referring to?
Maybe. Yeah. I keep confusing him with red card for some reason.
Yeah, no, red card's slightly different. A red card was the guy that goes dressed as a soccer coach, not a coach, a referee.
No, but like for some reason, like they look like when he's not in his suit, he looks very similar.
Yes, I agree with you 100% on that one. They both have a similar build, I would say. Is that red card?
That's red card.
That is red. Yeah, I agree. That they look like Zizzy, and that's Glim Glam. What was his? How does he go by?
Glim yeah. Glimmer fan, such and such. Yeah.
Actually, I need to go through red cards footage because apparently there's one of me at the BabsCon dating game this year for 2023, and I gotta find that. That'll be fun.
I didn't even know there was one. I wasn't paying attention.
Oh yeah. For me,
I just loved how like the camera like reflexively like panned down for just a second.
Wait, hold up.
If you go back like if you go back like a minute, like just watch, ready right after the hug, just pans down. Yep. And I know that wasn't on purpose. I know that wasn't on purpose.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't actually realize that until you mentioned it right now. So going back to it, right? Going back to the convention, the further confusion that happened 2 weeks ago. My God, I went into the after hours market. First off, I've never seen a line this freaking huge. I'm telling you, this thing spanned. So the further confusion took up 2 hotels and the convention center. This thing spanned from one hotel through the convention center to the other hotel and then back around halfway through the convention center. Holy crap, was that a line? But my God, I see why it was the way it was, because as soon as you start getting through the line, as soon as you got into it, it was just a mad rave. It was a freaking madhouse. There was a coat check where people were literally just putting in all their clothes there. Like, I'm not even kidding. They basically just hand over everything. And they'd give you like a little piece of tape to cover everything up with if you were a chick. And if you were a guy, I think they just let you go in your skivvies. It was, my God, when we made it onto the dance floor, because we just didn't change at all. We were just chill. She was in some kind of emo cosplay, and I was just in my dog hat. You guys know the dog hat. I've posted it several times. I'll send you a picture of it so you can overlay so people know what we're talking about. But what's it called? It was something else, man. I'm telling you. There were people, like, it was just a madhouse of grinding, people just on their knees, people just dancing in all sorts of different, let's say, forms and fashion. It was something else. It really was. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And in a different way than it was, I feel like, very different than, like, for example, BabsCon's raves or dance parties, because this one actually had alcohol on the floor. It was specifically 21 plus. So it was pretty awesome to see that kind of. It was like a legit It was like a legit rave. I guess the best way to put it.
Yeah, nice.
That was a lot of fun, and that's one of the things that makes me think, like, all right, well, you know what, I'm going to have to go again next year. If it weren't for that, I don't know if I would be so inclined, because it just wasn't really my style. I went. You guys have you seen my berry suit hoodie and shorts, or like long?
Yeah.
So it was like that.
I've seen that. So here's the thing. I went to the original the 2013 BronyCon BronyPalooza. I went to the one in 2012 too. I went to the one in 2013 where it was so fucking on that they actually had an earthquake register on the Department of Seismology. Like it was a legitimate earthquake that they caused for that section of the city. Like it wasn't anything huge. It was like a 2.0 or something like that.
2 something.
But like it registered as an earthquake because they were all freaking just dancing so freaking hard. Like it was like 9,000 people just raving their brains out. And I was there. And the problem though with that, the problem that I have is that I partied all goddamn night because that's what you go there to do. But the problem that I had was that the next day I wanted to go to those morning panels, and I was in such rough shape. I was really suffering that whole next day, and I realized, you know what? I am not a 17-year-old kid with infinite stamina. Like, I have to pick and choose. Like, do I want to go to BronyPalooza or do I want to enjoy the rest of the convention? Because there's people who go there literally just for BronyPalooza.
Fair enough.
And they stay up all night. They party till the sun comes up, and they sleep all day, which is fine. That's cool. Different strokes for different folks. But like ever since then, I'm just like, hey, BronyPalooza is happening tonight. I'm like, that's great. I'm gonna be asleep.
Hey, sorry.
I'm definitely gonna be in bed.
I'll pop it open.
Cash, I just sent a video in the MGB chat. But when I'm talking about the con that I went to, I found a video of the con that I went to. So when we get to that topic, you can grab that video from there.
Oh, we're gonna get to see your pretty face.
I'm not sure if I appeared on video or not.
You better appear on video.
God.
That's all
right, so if the BabsCon video, I must be in some of this because I crashed so many panels that weekend.
Oh yeah, you did.
Dude, so that's my thing. Like I used to organize panels. Like I used to go through all the trouble of like doing the paperwork and filling out the forms and shit. Now I just freaking show up to a panel. I just sit in one of the chairs and grab a microphone and be like, I'm on this panel now. And they're just like, okay.
I'm not gonna lie. If I'm being completely honest, I've kind of taken inspiration from you in that sense that I legit tried crashing more than a few panels at Further Confusion, and if you just kind of walk up there and act like you know what you're doing, if you're entertaining enough, people just kind of let you do it. It's pretty funny. Like, if I'm being honest, that was one thing that I really was confused about. Is like, wow, you really can just walk up and, as long as you're not being disruptive, as long as you're not, causing an issue and being funny and, entertaining the crowd, people will kind of just let you have at it. It just adds to the entertainment value.
Now I remember when I tried doing that the first time at Everfree. You were there for that, and the moderator was kind of like, what's going on?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
But I mean, it all worked out. But they're just like, you gotta let us know if you're gonna do that.
Kind of looking at you. Yeah. That was pretty funny. I do remember that. They were kind of just looking at you like they were reluctant to let it go. They let it go on, but they were just like, okay, I guess.
Like, yeah, they said to me verbatim, they're like, you literally saved that panel because, man, that thing was boring. But they're like, you literally saved that panel, but maybe don't do that again.
Oh man, it's fun. When you do stuff like that, it's spontaneous, and I think a lot more people have fun with it. if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, I mean, after you've had a gun pointed at you and you've heard the cracks of like bullets flying past your head, like nothing else puts the fear in you. So you just enjoy life.
Hmm.
Well, I can't say I've had that. What I have had is more, how should I put it? Basically being thrust in front of crowds, which, funny enough, people, I don't get it. Well, I mean, I do get it, I guess, but people are definitely afraid of that, of just being tossed in front of a crowd with no script, nothing. And for me, I don't know. That's happened to me enough times where I'm just like, okay, whatever, let's play with it. Let's have some fun. You take that nervous energy and you roll it into a ball and you just roll with the energy that comes with. You make it into something more positive, you know?
It,
And that's just me, I suppose.
well, to be fair, the people that thrive in the spotlight are definitely in the minority. It takes a
Yeah.
special kind of personality to want that.
Yeah, I would get very nervous about doing anything live. That's why I'm very much about recording and having the opportunity to edit. Because yeah, I don't think I'd do very well in like a direct spotlight.
Actually,
I'm a
that
very
reminds
shy, reserved sort of person, especially if
that
put on the
reminds me
spot.
actually, with that button dating game, I kind of forced my I kind of forced my way out to the panel for like the first 5-10 minutes, simply because they were like, oh, so you seem like you're having a good time. I don't even remember what I said. I think I just said something very specific to the host of the panel, and they asked me, "Oh, do you want to introduce yourself?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And I walked up, I grabbed the mic, and I was like, "You know what? Let me take a seat right here. Let me take a seat right here." I sat down, I introduced myself. One thing I'm going to say is, bronies are definitely seen differently in the furry community. Like we are seen as like furry lights or furry diet or diet furries or whatever. And the reason why I say that is because people definitely noticed. You know what I mean? Like just having that berry punch stuff on, they're like, "Oh, well, you're different." And I was actually told that like more than once, like, wow, that's very different. And I was like, well, is it really so different? Like, come on, look what you guys are wearing. But that was one of the things that actually came up more often than I expected was the fact that I was wearing my berry punch stuff. I just simply wasn't expecting that one to be such a contextual point of me being there, I suppose you could say.
Yeah. Is there any video of you?
I don't think so. I think there is one with BabsCon Red Card. Let me see if I can find that.
So
Somebody said
I
they had
think
found
I
it.
think with the berry punch sweatshirt business, I think it just goes back to a very fundamental like tribalist part of the human brain where it's like, hey, this is our group and you are presenting as someone who is different, therefore we are not the same, and like something fundamentally like it makes people categorize each other either in this group or not part of this group, and it's gonna take a lot to really overturn that way of thinking.
Yeah, no, I can agree. It wasn't that bad, but it was more so. It was kind of like the roast of brony. I remember going to that panel actually, and that was one of the things that actually was pretty funny. Was they were tossing out like, oh, you guys had I think it was Chris Chan, and then we just pointed out, oh, well, you
Oh
guys
God.
had I forgot what con it was that the furries just got completely shut down at the Hilton because there was diapers everywhere. People were dealing drugs. It was
What was
just
that,
it was
bronies?
no,
No,
no, no. That
Yeah,
one was
that was the
furries.
fairy one. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot what it was, but it was something else. Oh, and then there was pizza, the pizza one, where a whole bunch of furries decided to get together, play essentially icky cookie with a pizza, and then they proudly left that out and about in the hallway. It was like, oh my god, it
no,
was just
no.
yes, it was just running back and forth. It was
So
it
yeah,
was fun,
that
mind you.
fortunately, BronyCon, none of the Brony conventions. I don't want to cite BronyCon specifically, but like none of the Brony conventions that I know of have had to deal with that sort of crap. I mean, aside from like uh Las Pegasus being a obvious cash grab on the part of the organizers, there hasn't been any like national level like sensationalist crap like that.
I don't know if Las Pegasus was intentionally bad. That they were just really bad organizers.
No, it was
Okay.
it was found out that the organizers embezzled the money and then ran off with it. The voice
and
actors
then tried to
and
raise money from bronies to pay the actors.
well, that's what ended up happening was that
Yeah.
the voice actors and actresses didn't get paid. They didn't fulfill any of their promises. So you had a bunch of people who showed up who were expecting to have a free ride in their hotel. They got stuck with the hotel bill because it was supposed to be included with their package. But basically, any money that got paid directly to the convention just fucking vanished. And so you had a lot of people who were like stranded because now they had to pay the hotel and they weren't going to be able to get their stuff back, and they couldn't buy a new plane ticket. So people got a lot of people got screwed out of a lot of money, and not the least of all was the voice actors and actresses, which made it very hard after the fact to get any kind of professional talent from the show to come to subsequent conventions that weren't already well established at a minimum of 2 years of existing. So, like, if you're a first year convention, you need to have a successful year to survive, to have another one. And it's very hard for these for the voice actors and actresses to want to sign on to these because they're gun shy from after the whole Las Pegasus episode happening.
Yep.
That was actually something I remember hearing was specifically from Airfare. They had a really great first year, which is apparently it's something that doesn't happen too often. Usually there's a lot of one-offs from what, just from what I've heard. A lot of times it ends up being one-off simply because of that reason.
Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. It's like you either have a good first year or you have 1 year, and that's it. And so the Mayor Fair story is kind of a Cinderella story in that regard. Ever since BronyCon proper stopped running for its own reasons, Everfree's kind of become like the major one now, where that takes place in Seattle, which is good because that's close enough to Vancouver, where most of those voice actresses and actors can come down from Canada pretty easily. It's a short travel distance, so it's much more likely for them to have the kind of talent that would attract a larger group. And that's kind of made it the default biggest convention for bronies annually. And that's the one that I've made efforts to try to go to now.
Yep.
That's the one I'm planning to go to this year anyway.
I remember hearing you aren't able to make a BabsCon this year.
I want to go. I want to go to both, but unfortunately, I've had to choose one or the other. And as much as I enjoyed BabsCon, the few parts of it that I was able to, Everfree just has more of the people that I know going. It's a bigger crowd. It's the bigger crowd. Now mostly I'm going for the social aspect of being able to, see the faces with the names, hug these people that I know. And as much as I like the tone of BabsCon more, um, most of the people that I interact with aren't going to that one. And unfortunately, like the last time that I went to BabsCon, again, as much as I enjoyed it, I mean, I don't recall how many people were there, but it wasn't a lot, and it kind of was heartbreaking to see that,
starting to shrink.
It wasn't like the turnout.
Well, yeah, it kind of it was kind of like a in my face reminder that like the fandom has kind of been on the decline since the show ended.
And that's fair. For me, that was my first one, so it's always going to hold, a special place for me, as well as the fact that, I live 30 minutes away. There's no way in hell I'm not going to that one.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of it comes down to. Like, one of the things I really loved about BronyCon was the fact that it was on the East Coast, which made it a lot easier for me to go to it.
Right.
I mean, at least with BronyCon, I could, in theory, drive down to Baltimore and bring a whole lot more stuff. Whereas now, if I'm restricted to having to fly somewhere, it really makes it so that I have to plan to travel a lot lighter.
Yeah, it's a shame that I'll probably never have the kind of money that it would require to go to an American brony convention. And in fact, it was actually very hard for me to even get to the one Australian one I did because it was on the other side of the continent and was still pretty expensive for me to get the money together to make it to that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I feel like such an asshole about having to try to go across the country, and here you are having to fly across the entire planet.
Yeah, yeah.
It's still pretty expensive, man. I remember wanting to go to Sequestria because I was like, oh well, that's one of them that's still available. It's one of them that I can go to. But no, it was just way too much money to front. The plane ticket alone was over $1,000.
Yep. Yeah. The one convention that I went to in Australia, the thing is that I actually live in what's technically the smallest capital city in Australia, other than ACT, Canberra is probably the only city that's smaller. So all the conventions in Australia have been in the bigger Australian cities like Sydney and Adelaide and Brisbane. Did you want to bring up that that video I sent you in the MGB chat?
Here it is.
All right. Yep. This is the one that I went to in Adelaide. It looks like it's just like a photo clip show. But yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a slideshow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty awesome. I like the lemon grab.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll let you know if I'm in any of the photos. But what actually happened with me is I had a really disastrous time personally, because I think my social anxiety was really getting worked up by just the prospect of going to something so exciting. So out of the excitement, I didn't sleep for like a day before I got on the plane, and then I wasn't able to sleep on the plane.
Fever!
Yep, that's right. Yeah, we had Michelle Creever there. She was the main, I think the only real talent, and Mike the Microphone that she's apparently married to.
No, you're thinking Black Griffin, but
yeah, Black Griffin.
I thought my understanding was that they weren't married. I thought there was some kind of issues with him marrying her sister.
Yeah, I don't think they got married.
My understanding is that she's single right now.
Yeah, they were probably just together.
That's why I gotta lose the weight and become a stud.
Yeah.
They're hitting a BabsCon. Her and Sweetie Belle's voice actor. So I got to become a stud in the next 4 months.
Yeah. Anyway.
Very optimistic of me right now.
Yeah, with my experience, so I didn't get any sleep for ages, and then I went to a hostel, because it was like super cheap. It was like $15 a night, and yeah, I found out why it was so cheap. It was basically a place where a lot of homeless or drug addict people would go to have a roof over their head for the night, and it was like complete chaos all night. It was impossible to sleep. So yeah, I went through that. So I hadn't slept for like 2.5 days by the time I showed up to the start of the first day, and I was kind of a walking zombie. I wasn't really able to enjoy anything. I just kind of walked around and just observed stuff and didn't really have much energy to be very social. And but because of some reputation that I had in my local community, I think people probably assumed that I was drunk or something, just because of how low energy I was and how I was just kind of dragging myself around. And
with it being Australia and all, they would just assume you were drunk.
Yeah. But yeah, and yeah, I felt like I kind of failed quite a lot socially. And yeah, it just got worse and worse in the second and third day when I still hadn't gotten any sleep, maybe like 2 hours. And yeah, unfortunately, it was a bit miserable for me because of that. I tried to get Michelle Creever's autograph, but the line for her was way too long. And
well, how much did it cost?
I don't know. I probably had like $200 of spending money, which wasn't very much, but it took quite a lot to get that much because I was just working Uber Eats.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. But yeah, it was the biggest investment I'd ever made to like go to a social event, and yeah, it turned out very badly for me because I just couldn't sleep and I had no energy. And
well, yeah, man, it just sucks that you have to whore yourself out for Uber Eats. Because I mean, I kind of figured with $200 you just suck 10 dicks. I'm not calling you gay. I'm just saying $20 is $20.
Right.
And if you increase your rates, man, you may have 250.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, it was a good event for everyone else, I suppose. But yeah, but basically after that, yeah, I started to have some bad behavior on Discord. Getting drunk and getting behind the keyboard is what ultimately caused me to get ostracized and banned from the local brony community. And since then, I've never done any socializing IRL again. And like I've probably mentioned to you guys before, it took me 3 years before I finally started socializing again online. And as far as I know, I'm still, considered a pariah and hated by the local brony community. So,
well, gosh, when you say it like that, you make it sound so sexy, baby.
yeah.
You should probably try to focus on the part that you bettered yourself since then.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the better.
to some degree. I still, because I mean, you've witnessed it, Shakes. You can see why people. You can see why people banned me and stuff. You've witnessed.
I remember how you used to be. And you're a lot better than you were since then.
Yeah. I'm making an effort, and I was in the pits and I was drinking a lot more. When I really felt very lonely, but thanks to meeting you and your community, I've been getting a lot more social and been putting effort back into doing these shows. I probably mentioned to you guys that I went on a podcast recently that wasn't my own.
How did that one go, by the way? I wasn't able to catch it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it went pretty well. I got to make my case for why being a brony is awesome because, I was on there with a bunch of, non-bronies. And, the reason I went on that show, like what it is it's a podcast. It's a fan podcast of a very popular video game podcast called Video Game Outsiders. But it is the official community podcast. So I've been spending a lot of time in their Discord group, just shooting the shit, making jokes and, contributing to the discussions about video games. And I got popular enough that they asked me to be on the secondary, fan show of the main show. And when I was there, I got to have my spiel about, why I'm a brony and why I think, the stuff about how the show is, the show was written. What I wish I said was that the show was written with the intention of not making parents uncomfortable watching, a kid show with their kids. And they just did such a good job that they, created this big fandom of adult bros.
What did you end up saying? That's my question here.
Yeah, I kind of just talked about the show. I always have a lot of regrets about how I maybe could have explained it better. How I, maybe because I compared it to SpongeBob, and I said, well, if you like SpongeBob, then there's no reason why you wouldn't like, MLP, fourth generation anyway. And I kind of just explained it like that. But if anyone's interested to hear the show, you'd go on the Video Game Outsiders. There's an app you can download on the App Store called Video Game Outsiders, and it's an app specifically for that podcast. Their main podcast they distribute to all kinds of places, but they have the fan podcast is exclusive to their Video Game Outsiders app, and that's where you can listen to it. It's episode 12 of the Happy Hour. If you guys want to hear me making, I thought, an okay attempt at defending the brony fandom, but I there's always things that I wish I could have explained, more succinctly. But yeah, I think I did okay. And it was probably about 15 minutes of me talking about bronies, and the rest of the show was just us talking about video games. And it had a weeb theme, so we were talking about weeb culture and stuff.
Well, as I have tattooed on my arms, you gotta live life with no regrets.
Regrets, yep.
So why don't you go ahead and play us out?
Okay. If that's all you guys wanted to say about your own conventions, I guess we can end it there.
I've got more. We can take care of that later.
Yep. So the last thing I wanted to say is that I've started a new YouTube channel specifically for Mystery Gaming Bros. So in addition to uploading these podcasts to my usual Mystery Pony Fiction channel, I'll be uploading it there. And the intention for that is that these friends that I'm making in the video game Discord can subscribe to this show without being spammed with all my pony videos as well if they subscribe. So yeah, maybe increase the subscriber count by you two guys subscribing to it, and maybe we'll see if it gets to take off on its own individual thing, hopefully.
Well, just keep hawking your wares, and I'm sure eventually it'll pay off.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
It could become more popular than my main channel someday, because since it's more of a mainstream topic video games. So
yeah, hey, you gotta start somewhere, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, check out that channel. Just type Mystery Gaming Bros in YouTube search. There's 2 of them. One of them has no subscribers. One of them has like 3. Mine's the one with 3. So go for it.
Oh man, do I have a story to tell about BabsCon next time? Like, Jesus Christ. Shakes, you'll remember this guy. Remember the one that was dressed up as Fluttershy but smelled freaking horribly?
Well, isn't that expected?
Not the big guy. Not the big guy.
A story for another time.
Yeah. It was. Oh my God, man. Anyway, I think Shake's got it right. I think it's time for you to play us out.
Yep. Well, that was my way of playing it out. Just mentioning that other channel, and have fun, guys. I'll see you next time.
I have been Shakespearicles.
I have been Cashflow, not Clashflow.
I've been Mystery Pony Fiction, Sets a Trancer, and thanks for coming.
Good night, Ponyville.
See you all next time after dark.
Hey nerds, you want to know something that isn't poo-poo diarrhea coming out of my arse? It's the Mystery Gaming Bros podcast. They're actually not so check them out and subscribe. If you don't know, I'm going to come over there and I'm going to kill you. I'll kill your whole mother family. The angry video game nerd.
Game over.